Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Planning Commission hearing for Thursday, September 19th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. I now call this hearing and meeting to order. First item on the agenda is determination of a quorum. We have 5 commissioners present, therefore we do indeed have a quorum. Next item is adoption of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to adopt this evening's agenda?
I move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is visitor communication. This is time provided for individuals wishing to address the Planning Commission regarding issues not already on the agenda. Do we have anyone in the audience tonight that would like to speak to any subject that's not on this evening's agenda? Okay. Moving along, approval of minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve minutes as written?
I move that we adopt the minutes as, or approve the minutes as presented.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Carol. Okay, moving along to the public hearing. I apologize. I am, my voice is a little scratching tonight, so bear with me. This is the time set for a public hearing on city file number MOD 24-02/sub 24-01/CD 24-01, an application for modification of preliminary plat for the Sisters Woodlands Master Plan approval to adjust the lot lines, 31 lots to accommodate longer driveways for off-street parking and for a cottage development subdivision of Lot 175 to be developed with affordable housing for Sisters Habitat for Humanity. The application was submitted by PX2 Investments, LLC. This meeting is now called to order. Conduct of hearing. The public hearing will be conducted as follows. A, staff presentation. B, entry of additional correspondence received into the record. C, applicant opportunity to make a presentation. D, opening the public hearing for testimony in the following order. 1, testimony in support of the proposal. 2, testimony in opposition to the proposal. 3, neutral testimony. E, applicant opportunity for rebuttal. F, questions of staff, if any, by the Planning Commission. G, closed public testimony portion of hearing. And H, discussion and decision by the Planning Commission. Testimony. Testimony will be accepted in person and remotely via Zoom. Zoom attendees can request to provide testimony by using the raised hand icon at the bottom of their Zoom window. Once staff sees the raised hand in Zoom, you will be unmuted and called on to provide testimony. Any questions should be directed to me as the chair. When you testify, please state your name and address for the record, and please state clearly and loudly to ensure testimony is heard as this hearing is being recorded. Callers will be muted after their testimony concludes. At my discretion, I may limit testimony to 3 minutes per person. I would encourage those wishing to speak to keep testimony concise and relevant to the issues before us this evening. It is encouraged to simply agree with a point made by another person instead of remaking the point. For the deliberations tonight, the applicable substantive criteria are listed in the staff report. These are the criteria the Planning Commission must use in making its decision. All testimony and evidence must be directed towards these criteria or other criteria in the comprehensive plan or other land use regulations that the person testifying believes apply to the decision. Testimony that is not directed towards applicable or potentially applicable approval criteria, even if a strong point, is ultimately not relevant. Failure to raise an issue with sufficient specificity to afford the Planning Commission and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the Planning Commission to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Disclosures. At this time, I ask the members of the Planning Commission to disclose any ex parte contacts, bias, or conflicts of interest. When your name is called, please indicate the nature and extent of the ex parte contact, bias, or conflict of interest, and indicate whether you intend to participate in or abstain from the hearing. Commissioner McDougall.
I have no conflict of interest, no ex parte communication, and I plan to participate.
Thank you. Commissioner Retzman.
I've had no ex parte contacts, and I have no conflicts of interest, and I plan on participating.
Thank you. Commissioner Reese.
I have none of those items you asked me if I had, and I plan on participating.
Outstanding. Commissioner T-Walt.
I'm in the same. I have no contact or no reason not to participate.
Okay. And Chair Seymour, for the record, I know Kevin Eckert on a personal basis, and we've not had any discussion regarding tonight's application. And as far as ex parte contact, I drive by the Woodlands on a regular basis. We all do.
Yep.
Other than that, I plan to participate. Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the ability of any commissioner to hear this matter? Okay, moving along, we'll proceed to the staff report.
I check Zoom. There's no one. Okay, well, thank you all for being here tonight. I'm going to pull up my presentation. Just give me a moment. Okay, looks like it's working. All right. Thank you all for being here tonight. My name is Amy Shoup. I'm the Associate Planner with the City of Sisters, and tonight I am presenting the staff report and recommendations for file number MOD 24-02, sub 24-02, CD 24-01. Sorry, sub 24-01. And this was the modification to the Sisters Woodlands Master Plan approval and preliminary plat with a proposed cottage development subdivision as well. The address of the subject request is 735 West Barkley Drive, which is the overall property address for Sisters Woodlands, as well as 640 North Pine Grove Street, which is lot 175 specifically. So the location that we'll be reviewing, or the location of the subject request tonight is Sisters Woodlands Development, which you can see here is bounded by West Barkley Drive to the north, North Pine Street to the east, West Highway 20 to the west, as well as the U.S. Forest Service District Administration Building and property to the south. The subject properties that we are looking at are very discrete and particular in regards to the modification being requested tonight. And so the areas that we are looking at are zoned multifamily residential. In particular, there's areas 1, 2, and 3, which focus on lot line modifications within the phase 3 and 4 plats. These two phases of the master plan subdivision have not been platted, meaning the lots aren't created yet. So the appropriate process is a modification to that original approved plat. And then area 4 has been platted. It's lot 175. I think it was platted as part of phase 1. And that is where the cottage development and subdivision is being proposed. So I wanted to give a little bit of history about this property. It used to be owned by the U.S. Forest Service District. And I want to give a little bit of context just because there might be new people in the Sisters community listening in, or we might have some people on the Planning Commission who weren't part of the original Sisters Woodlands Master Plan approval process. So this whole area, which is approximately 67 acres, was annexed into city limits in 1979, and for a very long time maintained its zoning as urban area reserve. This property was owned by the Forest Service District, and you may have once heard it described as the north parcel, the middle parcel, and the east portal property. The Sisters Woodlands ended up being developed on what was that middle parcel. But for a long time, these lands laid vacant. Back in 2010, the city got a grant from the State Department of Land and Conservation, Land and Development, DLCD, thank you. And this grant was used to put together 4 development scenarios for these properties to kind of spur some private development interest. And so what came out of these 4 development scenarios was a mixed use concept where there was light industrial, open space, residential, and commercial uses. And that's what has come to fruition. So that property to the north is light industrial. It's that deeper purple color. That's the Three Peaks Industrial Park. And that was purchased and rezoned in 2019 and 2020. East Portal was purchased by the city in 2022. And then the middle parcel, I think, was purchased in 2020 and rezoned in 2019. And so that's how we got to December 2021, where the Sisters Woodlands Master Plan was approved. And since then, we've had 2 of the 5 phases platted. So all those lots have been created. And I'd say a good number of them have been submitted for building permits and are being developed on. We haven't seen any development applications for the North Sisters Business Park lots, which are 5 lots on the north boundary. It's kind of that lighter pink color, nor the bigger lots that are along Highway 20, such as that downtown commercial zone property. Those properties, if development is pursued, will be subject to future site plan review. So, you will get a notice if any development activity is occurring. So to give a little bit more information about what the Sisters Woodlands development is, it's a mixed-use development with a total of 175 lots, zoned a mixture of multifamily residential, North Sisters Business Park, which is characterized by uses that are like commercial and light industrial. North Sisters Business Park District is also a good chunk of the north area of Sisters. That's where you find Fika Sisters, the Kitchen Table, Sisters Coffee, Roastery, and several other buildings up there. And we also have 1 lot that's zoned downtown commercial, which is that red lot. And tonight I wanted to focus more on the residential opportunity or development opportunity with this master plan, which includes 101 cottage lots, 65 townhome units, 1 triplex building, a 15-unit congregate housing building, and I'll go into a little bit more detail about that in a moment. And then 2 apartment buildings, in which 1 would be on the downtown commercial lot. It'd be mixed use, where the ground floor would be commercial uses fronting the highway, and then the second or third floor could be apartments. There's also around 4.5 acres of open space spread throughout the development. And as part of the Sisters Woodlands Master Plan approval, the applicant dedicated a 2.86 acre park to the City of Sisters. I can't remember the exact name. Is it the Northwest Park or Northwest? Okay, Northwest Park. So that's closest to the roundabout. And that's property. We're looking at different park opportunities there now. And to give a little bit more context on what is a cottage development, this is something that has been done in Sisters before, even before the Sisters Woodlands, and it seems to be a trend that's going to continue to occur. We have, I think, 2 other applications in for cottage developments. So I thought this was a good opportunity to kind of set the stage. Our cottage development code cottage developments are regulated in the chapter 4.6, and cottage developments are characterized by small single-family detached homes that tend to be centered or with a common open space focal point. Cottage units don't have to front to the street. They can front to that common open space. Parking is allowed to be grouped off-site and shared So in this case, this is a cottage development in Clear Pine, where you can see there's 9 units centered around this common open space. And on the lots on the north end and the south end of that alley there, Wildflower Lane, those are garages that are shared with the 6 units furthest away from the alley. And these are, typically smaller lot sizes, minimum of 2,000 square feet, and there is a maximum floor area in order to make sure that the massing and the size of these cottage units are appropriate for that minimum lot size. And in general, the intent or the core principle of the Cottage Development Code is just to support more opportunities for home ownership of single-family detached homes through more flexible and creative development standards. Okay, now to get into the specifics of the request that we were reviewing tonight. There are 2 components of the application, which includes the lot line modifications affecting 31 lots, which ultimately reduces the total open space by about 4% or 0.09 acres. And with anything that reduces the amount of open space in a master plan development, it does trigger a major modification. In this case, a major modification goes to the Planning Commission for final decision. But overall, these changes to the lot lines are minor in scope, just a few feet here and there. And I'll go into more specifics on what is changing on the next slides. And the second component of this request is the 6-lot subdivision with the expanded cottage development from the rest of the Sisters Woodlands cottage development areas. So going more into proposal 1, these are lots that haven't been platted yet. So the appropriate process is to make modifications to that preliminary plat approval. And the result reduces the open space tracts B, I, L, and K. And most of these lots do increase in size a small amount, except for the exception of lots 130, 131, and 132. And in those cases, those lot sizes are reduced, and what area was taken away from those private lots is now allocated to tract L. So they become more shared open space. The intent of these lot line refinements is to accommodate deeper lot dimensions so that the builder can have greater variation with the building footprints in order to preserve trees and provide driveways that are no less than 20 feet long. The Cottage Development Code does allow driveways that are 10 feet long, but in this case, there are a lot of streets that were approved at narrower widths in Sisters Woodlands. And in order to make sure there's enough vehicle maneuverability outside of those narrow streets, it's important to provide 20 feet long driveways. So as a summary of their compliance, as far as the minimum lot sizes and the minimum lot widths, they maintain compliance with their original approval. Some lots might be a little bit smaller than the standard or narrower than the standard, but they would have already been that width per their original approval. And the usable open space per the master plan criteria and the shared open space for the cottage development criteria are still met. Actually, there's the minimum requirement of open space for cottage units is 500 square feet per unit, and they still maintain over 1,100 square feet per cottage unit. As for the second component of this proposal, the 6-lot subdivision, this would be dividing lot 175, which was previously considered for the congregate housing development. That would have been 15 units. But our current code doesn't contemplate congregate housing as a permitted use, so it's not an option. So in this case, they're moving forward with this cottage development proposal. And through this development, they'd be in partnership with Sisters Habitat for Humanity in order to provide homes restricted to household incomes of 75% of the area median income or less. And this falls into that category of low to very low income bracket. In order to achieve this, they are utilizing allowances in our code for reduced lot sizes and reduced lot widths. The lot sizes here are 1,451 square feet and 1,510 square feet, between the smallest and the largest one shown here on the plat. And the lot widths would be anywhere from 30, well, actually 2 lots are 32 feet wide and then 4 lots are 34 feet wide. And the development still provides the minimum amount of open space required for a total of 6 cottage lots, which is 3,000 square feet. So you may have questions about why this lot was configured in the way that it was. Lot 175 is encumbered by this large public utility easement, which I've highlighted in yellow, which means they can't build in that area. So their developable or buildable footprint is limited to 84 feet by 105 feet. And so they've utilized that public utility easement area for their parking lot, and then the units are centered outside of that easement area. And just to give some context, directly to the north is Lot 174, which is zoned North Sisters Business Park. And then there is existing Tract E, which is open space with a pathway. So to give a little bit more context of what these lot standard allowances are and what's the code that allows it to happen. In our special provisions code, we do have a section on affordable housing where if a certain kind of affordable housing development meets the criteria, some or all of the lots can be reduced up to, or sorry, they can be reduced to no less than 70% of the permissible lot size. So in this case, a cottage lot, the minimum lot size is 2,000 square feet. So they've reduced it to somewhere around 73% to 75% of the permissible lot size. And in doing this, it does require that they enter into a covenant with the city. The city attorney reviews that covenant and the community development director approves it. And I think it requires that they maintain affordable housing at a certain rate for anywhere between 30 to 60 years. The other lot standard that they're asking to modify are the lot widths. According to our master plan development criteria, lot widths can be modified up to 20% of the required standard, given that the Planning Commission makes a finding that such a modification will not be detrimental to the general welfare, health, or safety of the City of Sisters and will enhance the visual characteristics of the neighborhood. So just for visual sake, I provided this street cross section that the applicant provided, which shows the existing cottage lots on the right side of the street. Let's imagine we're standing on West Canopy Way. Existing cottages are on the right side. The new cottages proposed on lot 175 are on the left. And you can see how they're smaller, but that visual cohesion is maintained. And if anything, the smaller scale and the different orientation provides some variety along the streetscape. In addition, staff finds that the general welfare, health, and safety is not compromised by these reduced lot widths due to the consolidated driveway approach. We're not seeing a garage with the driveway, every 10 feet along the street because of this consolidated driveway with the shared parking lot. It's safer for pedestrians, it's safer for vehicular circulation, and this development also provides additional open space to the overall Sisters Woodlands development and further sidewalk connections to North Pine Street and that multi-use pathway there. So in summary, all the code standards have been maintained. In regards to setbacks, the applicant has provided some general building footprints and elevations of what these designs could look like, but it's up to them to meet the setbacks at the time of building permit review. And they've met their minimum parking requirements with 9 20 by 9 foot dimension parking stalls. And they've met their shared open space requirements as well. So staff recommends to you tonight approval with conditions. But you all have the options of the following moving forward. So at the conclusion of the testimony, the commission can consider the following options, which is to continue the hearing to a date certain, close the hearing and leave the written record open to a date certain, close the hearing and set a date for deliberations, or close the hearing and commence deliberations. I'm happy to address any questions that you have, and thank you for your time.
Before we jump into questions, how about correspondence? Have we received any correspondence on this matter, other than those items included in the agenda materials?
I have not received any.
Okay, questions? Questions for staff? Tom, no, you go.
I'm confused, by the, rear setback. It's on page 32. Please.
Yeah.
Doesn't meet, this design doesn't meet the rear setback requirement?
Yeah, so on their plat, they didn't show rear setbacks, and so that's something I've brought to their attention. And I think there's a way that they can meet it, either through adjusting the designs at the time or prior to building permit review. But that is something that we've called out and brought to their attention.
That's.
Okay.
Additional questions for staff? Okay, we'll have another opportunity. Okay, moving along. Thank you, Emmy.
Thank you.
Applicant presentation. The applicant will now have the opportunity to provide a presentation.
Good evening, Commissioners. Peter Hoover, Sisters Habitat, 382 East Hood Avenue. First of all, I want to publicly acknowledge two things. One, the appreciation to Scott and Emmy for the work that they have done in reviewing the application, and also the close coordination and communication that they've had with Build LLC and Sisters Woodlands. That type of cooperation and free-flowing communication has been very helpful to Sisters Habitat in resolving some of the issues that we face independent of this application. We are under some fiscal constraints from the standpoint of a grant that we received years ago for purchasing of 10 lots in Woodlands. It restricted us to a 60% AMI as the maximum income for households. And so that creates some challenges when it comes to being able to build affordable housing if you're looking at a 60 AMI cap on your potential buyers. We have gone through several iterations, I guess we'd call it, with Woodlands in terms of which lots were going to be available. And Woodlands initially indicated years ago that they would provide 10 lots of Sisters Habitat. They're living up to that. One of the challenges that has come up is that the funding deadline for spending the ARPA funds that were awarded by Deschutes County is coming up at the end of this year. And so if we are not able to successfully conclude a purchase on the remaining lots in Sister Woodlands that we don't already own, then it would create an interesting scenario on the funding. We could very well lose the funding. We'd have to return it to the county. So the advantages for Habitat in developing Lot 175 as proposed is that we do have, as many of, I'm sure all of you know, savings on construction costs by having the buildings in one location rather than spread out. It speeds up our construction schedule to some degree. And I might also note that we did have a meeting, Kevin and I had a meeting with Woodlands homeowners 2 months ago, about 2-3 months ago, something like that. And this concept was presented to the Woodlands homeowners. And from my view, it was a positive reaction to the location in this upper corner, Lot 175. So we certainly support the work that SWDI and PX2 has done on behalf of Sisters Habitat. Happy to respond to any questions that you have, but this is certainly a movement in a direction that will greatly aid the feasibility of this project for Sisters Habitat. And it will also greatly aid an element of the, or a segment of the Sisters community that would otherwise be very challenged in order to purchase homes. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
So, thank you, commissioners. I wanted Peter to go first because we were under the impression that we had till 2026 to spend their funding. So we were going to scatter these cottages more around the development. Through the clause within that is that the properties have to be closed upon by 2024 and the homes have to be completed by 2026, which is a nuance that we were not aware of until recently, which has led us to this new proposal to do these.
Mr. Eckert,
Yes.
I hate to do this, but can you state your name and address?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Kevin Eckert, 505 North Pine Street in Sisters. Sorry. Yeah, of course. So we have a little bit of a newer deadline than what we thought to close on the lots themselves, but we have a lot of leeway on when we build the homes. So that's part of the creative solution of why we came here tonight. So it's the constraints that Emmy has shared, the funding, and wanting to make sure that we don't lose the opportunity to do these homes in Woodlands or have to find new funding to do so. I don't have a lot more to share. Emmy did a excellent job weaving through the history of the project and cottage development and how we've ended up with this affordable housing solution within Woodlands. But I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has if now's the time for that.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and if that concludes you guys' presentation,
It
yeah,
does.
we'll go ahead and move along to questions of the applicant.
Yeah.
Anybody have questions for the applicant?
I have one.
Rick?
It was in the
Go next.
in the presentation, Ms. Shoup, indicated that there was going to be 10 habitat lots or buildings or builds within the community. This right here on lot 175.
Yep.
Only has 6. Are the other 4 already developed or?
They're being built. So we built two of we took it all the way through Shell and turned it over to the Habitat Volunteer Force. And they're finishing up the first 2. We're currently building the other 2 right now and about to turn those over here in a few weeks. And part of that issue with the 60% AMI cap is we called in a lot of favors and we were able to build those for, by far less than market value. But it's not a sustainable model to keep going at that rate. So that's why we've sort of pivoted to a different model here. So the goal is by end of next year, we'll have 10 homeowners living, Habitat homeowners living in the community. Yep.
Tom?
Sure. Thank you. I applaud what you're doing.
Yep.
So when I ask questions,
Sure. Of course.
You have CCNRs for your homeowners association already?
Yes.
Is there, was on-street parking, or I should say on-street parking permitted?
It is.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you have CCRs regarding snow removal?
We do.
And you guys will take care of all snow removal?
So snow removal is twofold. The City of Sisters takes care of our public right of ways as they do everywhere else. And then we take care of all of our alleys. They're all considered private.
This parking lot in particular?
This parking lot's private property, so that would be part of the homeowners association to maintain it
Oh, yes, but but the home.
and plow it and all of the rest. Yeah.
And so yes, you answered that question. One of the things that, we had something similar to this with a Habitat, request to build more homes on the other side of town, and it's a great idea. But when we had testimony, some of the testimony was from people in the Habitat homes that live there now. And several of them didn't like it because they thought, well, they don't provide enough storage. It's a single car garage and there's no storage. So we use our garage as a storage. And so we park our cars out front and then we park our car. Some people park their car in the yard. These don't have garages.
Correct.
And they don't have exterior, a couple of them look like they have exterior storage areas.
Correct.
But I would disagree with staff. Suddenly becomes a clutter problem in our neighborhoods and it becomes unsightly. So I live in an area and I've walked past some Habitat places and a lot of the places have 1, 2, sometimes 3 cars and lots of stuff piled up around their house, bicycles, kayaks, and kids' toys. Do you, do you see a problem with not providing any kind of exterior storage areas for?
So toy storage is a problem for everybody in Central Oregon. We have it at Woodlands, we have it everywhere we go, and we do our best to accommodate it. In this case, we have a couple of things going for us. We will have accommodations for some storage. You know, we're not going to store snowmobiles on these lots. But we will have accommodation for bike storage and basic toys. To your point, it's less than ideal to not have garages. It is. It's also part of the hurdle we are facing with a 60% cap on AMI on how to achieve a home, a single family standalone home at all. We also have 2 storage facilities on 2 corners across each of our streets. So if folks really have a storage issue, they got to go across the street. We had a community meeting. We've had ongoing conversations with Habitat about how to police and enforce issues around CCNRs and homeowner issues. And, you know, it could be everything from weeds to toys to clutter to all of the rest, but it could be that for these homes as well as other homes within the Woodlands. You know, we have mostly full-time people, but we have about a third part-timers currently. So the enforcement mechanism is built into our CCNRs regardless of which home it is within the community. Is there going to be potential friction? There could be potential friction, but that's just all stuff the community is going to have to work out.
I agree with you.
Yep.
But it seems to me what this group of people, lower income people who are going to be working, well, they're not going to be not working, are going to, if they're a married couple, they might be having 2 vehicles and there's, I know you're following the regulations. You're providing 9 parking, 9 for 6 units.
Yes.
Which is,
So historically, Habitat's homeowners are 50% singles. 50% singles. So
that won't be in the CCRs, that what kind of people can.
no, that would be like running afoul of all kinds of laws. Yeah, yeah.
If you see what I mean.
I don't want to be disrespectful, but I'm more worried about people than cars, and I know you are too. Habitat's going to go through their process with, you know, there's currently about 80 people on the wait list for homes within the Habitat, just, you know, citywide. So during the selection process, you know, we're going to have a difficulty with candidates just with that AMI cap being so low. So we're going to have a lot of single income households just because a double income household will quickly exceed the 60% lid. Am I promising that? No. But practically speaking, do I think that to be true? Yes.
Will these units be fenced prior to occupancy? Will
Fenced?
Habitat or Woodland be fencing these properties?
No fences in the development. What we're doing are mechanical screens and trash screens. That's kind of antithetical to what we're creating over at Woodlands with common open space and shared open space and engagement with neighbors. The cottages are carefully designed to have reverse floor plans or standard floor plans or window placement throughout the development. So to increase perceived privacy, but also allow for engagement with the neighbors. So it's same thing with these.
Can you address the lack of enough rear setback?
Yeah, there's a overlap of codes here. There's the affordable housing, there's the cottage code, and there's the multifamily, and then there's definitions. We are aware that we have a rear setback that we need to conform to, and we will. Our footprints are currently showing an issue around our rear setback, but we will conform to that at the time of building permit.
Just to add to that, Commissioner Reese, to that issue, we've added a condition of approval that says that they must comply with the code requirements for setbacks before building permits. So even though it may appear that there's an issue now, that would be something that we've met with them and we've discussed some potential solutions that they can do to meet that requirement, and that'll something staff will confirm before building permit.
And in earlier application for your project, your development, we were in a discussion, and the potential for your, let's say approximately 180 homes or 180 units there. We had talked about the perceived problem, assumed problem, would be the potential for 180 trash cans and 180 recycling bins. And at the time, we had discussed and talked about, and I think asked your designers about, is the possibility of several centralized, covered, screened, gated trash and recycling centers on site versus 180 trash cans and 180 recycling centers. And from what I'm looking at, this will just be individual households, even in this area. Each.
Correct. Yep, correct.
Are you concerned about?
So I live in the Woodlands.
Beg your
I
pardon?
live in the Woodlands and I have the little tiny trash bin and I don't even have a recycling bin because I just take it across the street to the city recycling. And I have plenty of room because I have a wider side yard where I happen to be located. Because of the way we're doing our landscape, we don't really need the yard bins. Those massive things for a big suburban home. So thus far, I think we've got 30 some odd homes occupied. It has not been an issue yet. Trash goes in, trash goes behind the screen wall, just like it will at these.
So when you do your apartments, that'll all be.
That'll have to be a centralized facility. Yeah. Anything truly multi-unit, multi-family, not on its own, multi-units on one lot would have a shared facility.
I live in a community that's 83 homes.
Mhm.
And on trash day, it's quite amazing to see how many trash.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I would just share that being there a lot because it's a project and I live there. Haven't really noticed it. People are taking care of their stuff.
Well, I'm thinking about build out. I'm not thinking about what it's like when, in my development, when there were only 10 of us.
Sure.
It was great.
Sure.
Streets were quiet. There's no clutter. There was lots of cars parked on.
Yeah.
That's all I've got.
Thank you. Additional questions for the applicant? Okay. Move along. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Public testimony. We will now invite members of the audience to provide testimony. When your name is called, please come forward and state your name and address for the record before proceeding with your testimony. For those attending via Zoom, please use the raised hand icon at the button of their Zoom window, and we will call on those waiting to provide testimony at the conclusion of testimony by those attending in person. I did not receive any pre-signups for testimony, so I'll just go ahead and open it to the audience. Do we have anyone in the audience that would like to testify tonight? Okay. Carol, do we have anyone? Are you, well, you just gave the applicant presentation.
You'd have a,
Let's,
Peter.
I will make sure that you have ample opportunity to make a rebuttal here.
yes.
So just confirming we don't have anyone on Zoom?
I don't see anyone on Zoom with their hand raised. There is one attendee, but doesn't seem like they've requested to be called on.
Okay. Okay, with that, I will go ahead and bring forth the applicant rebuttal. The applicant will now have the opportunity for rebuttal. Does the applicant have anything to add in response to the testimony? That's your turn. That's your sign.
Just trying to jump back.
Again, Peter Hoover, Sisters Habitat, 382 Eastwood Avenue. Tom, Commissioner Tom, I share your concern about appearances of homes. I truly do. I would suggest that if you'd like a comparison of semi-similar neighborhoods, you take a look at the 6 homes that Habitat has in Clear Pine. And it would be, I'll say impossible, not virtually impossible, impossible to distinguish those homes from the other homes that are in Clear Pine. And occupancy is of similar ratios of single versus partnered households. And parking is not an issue, garbage cans and other things that can, I'll call it blight a neighborhood or detract from a neighborhood are not an issue there. So with a strong HOA like Clear Pine and like Woodlands has, and with the confirmation that we get from our approved applicants that requires written acknowledgement and willingness to conform to the rules of the CC&Rs that are applicable in the neighborhood, I hope that we have that under control. And at minimum, they'll get a not so friendly call from me. So, okay.
Habitat homes at Clear Pines, there, it's not the cottage unit, it's the duplex looking things on the east side of.
Yeah, they're on Bluebird. Yeah, towards the north end of Bluebird.
My response would be, but they have garages. And that becomes a storage area, which is fine with me. I don't care to do that.
Yep.
Place without a garage, without an exterior storage area for those people. It introduces clutter.
No, I don't disagree with your point, but I would like to add to it that that's not a characteristic unique to Habitat homes.
No, I was not.
And I know, I know that wasn't what you were implying, but I wanted to make sure there was clarity on that.
Habitat home.
Yeah. No, and I didn't take it that way. I just wanted to make sure that that's part of the record. All right, thank you.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
You said you had about 80 people kind of queued up for some of this stuff. No, obviously not qualified for this.
Well,
Could you expand on that?
what Kevin was alluding to is right now we're in an application period. We've opened up on Monday, the 16th. We'll close on Friday, the 27th for people to submit applications for the 4 homes we have available, 2 in Village Meadows, 2 in Woodlands. And judging by the number of downloads that are recorded from our website and the number of applications that have been picked up at the office, we have about 80 applications thus far that are out there. That's not that 80 will be returned. It'll be some subset of that, I would imagine. But it's still showing that there is, for people to go to the effort of doing that, it shows that there's demand and interest in the homes. Now, whether they'll qualify for that 60% AMI, we'll just have to wait and see on that.
Thanks.
Okay. Other questions?
Any final questions for the applicant or any additional rebuttal from the applicant?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions of clarification? Does any member of the Planning Commission have any further questions of staff? Okay, close or continuation of the hearing. If there are no further questions, I will close the public testimony portion of this hearing. Public testimony portion of the hearing is now closed. We now have closed the hearing and must deliberate towards a decision on the application. As always, our options are to 1, approve the application as submitted, 2, approve the application subject to conditions of approval as amended, or 3, deny the application. We'll take this in a little less formal way. Does anyone want to share any thoughts? We need to have discussion.
I think discussion's always good. Just from my walking the streets of the town, not singling out Habitat. Sorry if it makes sense. Homes with single car garages have a hard time keeping their items they own in their garage. Statements we heard from the Habitat people who lived in those, was that they didn't want us to approve it because they didn't like living where they were living because there wasn't enough storage and people were parking and other stuff. So I understand their plight. I understand their plight. And I understand that it's an American problem that we purchase a lot of stuff and we have no place to put it, so you can storage it. It's interesting though that in this case, these 6 units that are going to be, we're going to be looking at lower income families, people. But there will be no place for them to store stuff. It will be outside, and the HOA can handle it. But HOAs aren't handling it in other cities, so not that this HOA won't. So I just have the concern that we are encouraging more and more garageless homes, not that everybody needs a car. And I understand the plight, the difficulty now with they're up against the deadline. It's not our fault.
So like, I mean, I tend to agree. I live in a garageless home and it's a constant battle. And I try to keep my like pretty nice, but it's a constant battle. The other thing I was thinking about that, I mean, the storage units right across the street, I get that. But we're talking about people that are at 60% of average income. So how there's not $35 for a storage unit across the street. Potentially, I'm not an expert on that, but that's a question that I have.
I guess the way I look at this is people who are living at 60% AMI aren't going to have a lot of home ownership opportunities. And it might be a choice that they make to have less toys so that they can live somewhere even without a garage. I think sometimes when you live somewhere like this where a lot of people have the means to have all the toys and do all the things in their free time, we can forget that there's people who don't have free time and maybe working many jobs to be able to afford even this this type of housing. So I would hesitate to say we can't move forward with garageless homes. And I think it is up to the person who applies to live in these houses and agrees to the rules of the HOA and of the Habitat contract, however that comes out. You know, they've got to be in to do this. And if the team that's building the houses is confident that there are 6 families that would be in, then I don't have any issues with that piece at all.
Well, I agree that it's important not to lose sight of that.
I mean, there could, for all intents and purposes, with the potential of 175 lots, there could be a design feature where 10 of the lots, excluding these 6, could be Habitat homes with garage. That's a design change.
I think that the challenge with the whole garage concept is that they can't get it done financially. In a cottage development.
I hear what
Cottage developments don't have garages.
I hear what you're saying.
So if this isn't going to happen unless we approve it. So what's on the line is 6 homes for 6 families that currently are not living in. So yeah, nothing's perfect, but I think by and large, this needs to get passed.
Right, I think their testimony was the fact that they're having a hard time building these, you know, and keeping the lid down low enough as it is. You know, being creative with their financing and materials and that kind of stuff. Without the garage, they're having a hard time fitting into that. What is the AMI here in Sisters?
Varies from house to house. It's based on house and size. And I did not bring the truck.
A lot.
I will say that our affordable housing special provisions accommodate anything between 30% to 150% AMI. And I think that 80 to 120 or 80 to 150 now, 150% AMI is that workforce housing category, whereas anything below that is more like the low to very low affordable housing category.
All of the cottage developments that I've seen, take a look at Clear Pine. There's multiple cottage developments within Clear Pine and they don't have garages and there is no issues with clutter.
But the cottage development in Clearpine does have garages that account, that some of those people.
At any rate, I feel that it's the HOA's obligation to monitor the appearance of the structures.
So your contention then is that the 10 Habitat for Humanity houses can't be built in that development unless 6 of them are in a cottage.
I don't think that they can be done unless it's done in the way that the applicant has presented it tonight. But with the timeline that they're under, in order to maintain the finances.
It sounded to me like the developer was kind of footing some of the bill to get the 4 other ones built. Borrowing and begging from all the other contractors probably. Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. And I get where you're coming from, but I'm leaning towards this like being an exception, not the rule. But the no garage thing, I'm not I struggle with it. And I probably have the means to have a garage and I struggle without it, but I also have storage. I just don't think this should be as a general, this should be the rule, but I think it's something that we can make an exception for, or I can.
I was a big supporter of, I was on the commission. I was a big supporter, still a big supporter. I'm just not supportive.
Yeah.
Additional discussion? Okay.
Oh, I do have, I guess, a question, as part of the staff report, there are, staff recommended conditions of approval. So, I would like to include those. Is that just a way of, we need to word the,
If we're going to make a motion, we'll want to make sure that we include the language in that.
And if you want to strike some of the conditions, you could do that. You can do a lot of different, you can add conditions to them.
I've read through them. I'm good.
Well, I guess, I would like to make a motion. And then once I make it, we can discuss it. I move to approve city file MOD 24-02 / SUB 24-01 / CD 24-01, subject to the conditions of approval as presented by staff. I don't see any changes that need to be made based on the application as it's been presented.
I'll second that.
Any additional discussion? Okay. Time for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, the ayes have it. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Guys. Moving along,
This looks hard to me.
staff and commissioner comments.
Yeah.
Any additional items from staff?
Just kind of give a heads up on future agendas. October 3rd meeting will be canceled. because that happened to be the date that the UGB steering committee, best date for them to meet during this time. Some of you, Commissioner Retzman and Commissioner Blumenkron, are on that committee. So that you're welcome to come to that meeting if you want, but you'll also get basically the same presentation that the steering committee gets on October 17th meeting. So that would be your next regular meeting. So enjoy a little time off in between there. And then November 7th, we're looking to bring back or have a workshop with Planning Commission on the defensible space code amendments that we're proposing, and we'll have, you've gotten I think Matt Martin's given you a presentation on generally what's going on, but the intent of that would be to kind of dive into it more deeply. So those two items are coming up, and that's I guess that's it. Any questions on any of that UGB stuff? Just want to acknowledge Commissioner McDougall. She did a presentation on the UGB for us this week with Rotary, and I heard it was well received. And so we're doing these conversations out in the community, trying to extend the word about the UGB process education, get some feedback on it, and we're finding that those are being well received. People appreciate those and appreciate learning about them and understanding them better. So thank you for doing that. Yeah. And if anybody else is interested in doing so, I can give you all the materials, or actually maybe Commissioner McDougall could give you a little 101 on her experience, or maybe you want to talk about your experience briefly.
Back up a year and think what I've said, that's going to be fun. And I don't like presenting. It's not my thing. Like, I don't really like getting up in front of people and talking about something, but you know, people are really excited to hear about it and get the details and ask questions. And yeah, the Rotary it's a great group of people. I really enjoyed it. I think the sigh of relief continues to come when they see the picture with the 250 acres in the
Relative to the study area. Yeah.
study area. It's like, oh, okay,
Yep. And acknowledge Commissioner Ressman assisting Emmy with a tabling at the Fourth Friday Art Walk. So appreciate that. And yeah, if you guys have any questions on any of it, be happy to answer those, or just wait for your presentation on the 17th. Any updates you have? Carol, any updates? We are getting ready to send out a letter, kind of informing folks that are in the study area out in the UGB that their property is that it's in the study area and it's potentially, subject to being considered for the UGB expansion. We've done a lot of outreach in the city, but we haven't done as much with the actual property owners that might be owning property that could be included in the UGB. So Carol has got a big job tomorrow stuffing a lot of envelopes. There's about 300
5 miles,
everybody that's in the study area.
right, the 5 mile.
Not 5 miles. No, only like a half mile, but a little farther, almost a mile to the north here where the exception area is. So I think there's like 350 properties total. So that's another bit of outreach that we're doing. And
you have to lick every envelope. Oh boy.
Automated.
So yeah, I think that's it for staff.
Great. Commissioners, anything else?
Well done, Eddie.
I would like to encourage the commissioners to reach out to high quality qualified people to fill out planning commissioner applications, because we're going to have some vacancies coming up here pretty soon. Be really good to get a jump on that. So best people that we have are the ones that we know.
I would ditto that. Yeah. So spread it far and wide.
Okay, with that, we're adjourned. Thank you.